Thank you all for coming. I truly appreciate it. My name is Marlena Weisbrot. Okay, so as I was saying, I've helped one of my communities become Firewise designated, and they've been designated for a couple years now. It's been definitely a learning process, but it's been really helpful for the association as far as us as a whole. I am in the process of getting another community designated, so we're really excited about that. If any of you have any questions during the presentation, I will be holding a Q&A at the end of the meeting. Please note that this presentation is going to be recorded, so we do ask that you mute yourself and turn off your camera as well. After the presentation, if anyone has any questions, you are more than welcome to contact me via phone or email. I'm happy to help in any way possible. Obviously, your community manager with Aperion is also happy to help. All right, so let's move forward with the agenda. We're going to talk about what is Firewise designation, the creation of a Firewise committee, and the application process itself. We're going to go into the nitty-gritty as far as project planning, and then we're going to share with you some resources that we use quite often. They're very helpful, and then we'll go into the question and answer period. This is a little cartoon that we found. It's of a gentleman who's barbecuing, and his barbecue has basically lost control, and there's flames everywhere. You can see the barbecue is up against the house, which is obviously not recommended. And he's just saying, don't worry, I have insurance. This is to remind everyone that fire isn't limited to wildfires. House fires can spread and become basically wildfires. They can and will damage neighboring homes as well. So we want to just keep that in mind, that when you become Firewise, you're actively working on your home as well as the landscape around it in order to protect it from either wildfire or neighboring fires as well. All right, what is Firewise designation? Firewise designation, it's a national program that focuses on the education of community members of HOAs and the action as a result of that education to promote fire safety within their communities. The designation, I'm so sorry about this. All right. The designation is basically proof that your community has completed the requirements of Firewise. The creation of a Firewise committee. First things first, we want to get your volunteers in order. How to recruit for these volunteers, you can do several different ways. If you're having a board meeting, board members can reach out to the homeowners in the audience and see if anyone would like to volunteer. I know right now it's kind of difficult not having in-person board meetings, so we also rely on email blasts and newsletters to kind of get the word out that the board is looking for a Firewise committee and volunteers to serve on it. And also word of mouth. If you have neighbors, friends in the community, please reach out to them and ask them if this is something you're really passionate about. Chances are your friends and neighbors are passionate about it too, and you will be able to get the volunteers that you need to get the project moving forward. The committee responsibilities, they oversee the application process. They develop the association's action plan, which is a requirement of the application, and they provide recommendations to the board. And then at meetings, either Firewise meetings or board meetings, they will provide and present updates to the board and or community as a whole. I know that with my board meetings, we always have a placeholder for a representative of the fire committee to share any action they have taken, any decisions or recommendations that they have had. With the entire committee. So it's very helpful, especially neighbors hearing it straight from their other neighbors. Okay. the Firewise Inspection. So this is the first step in the application process. We're going to have a community-wide inspection. This is usually with a representative of the fire department and or Project Wildfire, which is a local agency. Also, the Department of Forestry sometimes comes as well. They each have their own strengths and add different things to the inspection and the meeting. This is typically done with the Firewise committee and usually a representative of the management company. Board members are obviously welcome as well. These inspections identify areas of successful wildfire risk reduction, as well as areas where improvements can be made. Basically, what are you doing right and what are you doing wrong? What can use some betterment, some improvement? It emphasizes general conditions of the homes and related ignition zones. Again, as I had mentioned earlier, the Firewise program doesn't really limit to just the landscape around your home. It also focuses on the home itself. There's a ton of idiosyncrasies with the home that a lot of people are not aware of, even down to the vent size in the attic. These inspections answer a lot of questions that owners have with regards to these tips. We just had a follow-up inspection yesterday for one of my communities, and it was really interesting. They were talking about the dangers of mulch, and I don't know if a lot of people are aware of this, but mulch has a tendency to spontaneously combust and create a fire. Unfortunately, a lot of homeowners have mulch right along their homes, which is going to cause a house fire. Another item that they were talking about is a very popular plant material, arborvitae. You can go to Costco and get a giant arborvitae plant for about $15, but they are extremely flammable. And that's not something that they put on the tag of the plant material itself. So a lot of people aren't aware of it. Again, people plant this really close to their homes, which is a bad idea. Additionally, what trees are good and what trees are bad. A lot of owners assume that if there is a tree close to their home, that it has to be ripped out, that it is a danger to their home. However, that's not always the case. Some trees like junipers are not good. We would recommend that those be farther away from the home. But however, if you have aspens, those are not that bad. Also, some trees protect the home as a shield from radiant heat. So as long as they are fire-resistant hardwood deciduous trees, then you actually kind of want them close to your home, as long as they're not touching your home, overhanging on the roof, etc. These are just some really good tips that are usually talked about at the inspections. Next, we're going to develop an action plan. So using all of the information that we received from the fire representative, Project Wildfire representative, and the ODF representative, the Firewise committee is going to take that and develop an action plan. In order to become a Firewise designated association, there's basically two requirements. You need one action event and one educational event annually. There's many different options, which we can go over in depth later. The next step is to do it and make it count. Again, you're going to have to host that action project and that educational event, and then you're going to make it count by taking all of those hours and investments as recorded and reported from your homeowners and submit it through the portal, the application portal, in order to make it count. In order to do the designation, it requires an investment of about $25 per dwelling, or 1 hour of work per dwelling. So 1 hour equals to $25 as well. So it's pretty easy to obtain that number. As I was saying earlier, for smaller associations, it's very easy to obtain it. I have an association that is almost 800 units, and we actually surpass the hours every single year, which is really nice. But it was tough in the beginning. We really had to get the word out. And the last is the approval of the designation. Congratulations, you did all the hard work, and now you get a pretty sign to place anywhere in your community. This is an example of the signs that they send to the boards. You can put your association name on it if you'd like. As a reminder, this is an annual process. You're not done after just the 1 year. You will still have your application on the application portal. However, every single year, you will have to go in, do another action project, another education event, and submit those hours as well for the annual renewal. All right. So now we're going to get into the project planning. So for the action events, they are active cleanup. To eliminate the, to accumulate the hours for the Firewise designation or renewal. This includes green waste disposal and chipping as well. And for the educational events, we've got presentations by either the fire department, Project Wildfire, a Firewise representative. And this is usually done at annual meetings or community events. We were just talking about this yesterday. We were thinking maybe next year when COVID kind of calms down, we're going to have an event in one of the parks within one of my communities. We're going to have the fire department bring a fire truck, and that will kind of strum up interest for parents to bring their kids. And ideally, we'd like to do this before we do our action event so that we can really get the owners educated as far as what action to take during the action event. So we're really excited about this. This is going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully it happens. Hopefully COVID allows us to do this project. But there's other ways that you can do it. Again, annual meetings are the most popular way to fulfill the educational event requirement. The representatives are more than happy to present at these events. They're very passionate about this. Obviously, having Firewise communities makes their job a lot easier because it cuts down on the threat of fire. So never hesitate to reach out to them. They will definitely help you out with that. Okay, here are some examples of the different types of action events that people do within their communities. The first one in the upper corner is chipping. So typically, some associations will clean up their lots, and they will place everything curbside, all of their green waste. Then the landscapers will come and they will throw it into a chipping machine, and they'll either recycle the chips or use them elsewhere. The middle photo is someone limbing up trees. Ideally, large trees should be limbed up about 13 feet. This can be different for different types of trees. You will want to look at whatever is underneath the tree. The common rule is that any brush underneath the tree will sprout flames that are 2 to 3 times the height of the brush. So if you're looking at the trees, you're going to look at the brush underneath and kind of do the math, imagining the length of that brush times 3, because that's where the flames are going to be. If that area is reaching the bottom limbs, then you've got a ladder fuel, and that needs to be remedied ASAP. In order to do that, you would either remove the brush altogether, or you could remove the bottom limbs. You don't have to remove the tree. We want the trees. The trees are good. And genuinely, we want the brush too. We just don't want the brush touching other brush. The brush is a good source of food for wild animals. And so having smaller areas that have defensible space around it will be perfectly fine. We just don't want giant piles of it. The last picture is, this is kind of a program that we use for one of my associations. The association rents out these very large bins, and we have owners within the community clean up their lots and then haul their stuff to the bins, which are stored at some parks. And the association pays for the disposal. It's been a really, really good program, and it's gotten more popular year after year. The first time we did it a couple of years ago, we scheduled the program to last 2 weeks, and we scheduled the pickups to be twice a week. And we soon realized that that was not enough. So last year we extended the program for 4 weeks, and we scheduled the disposal to be every other day. And again, that still wasn't enough. We had a ton of activity going. So this year we're going to be doing another month, and we're going to be scheduling it for daily pickups for the first 2 weeks, because that's usually the most busy time. And then the last 2 weeks, it's just going to be every other day. So hopefully that will be enough, but it kind of shows you how the word of mouth gets out. Sometimes it's tricky in the beginning getting people to participate because they're not quite sure what's happening or why, but the word gets out and people start to participate, and it's a fantastic program. All right. Next, who's who? This is the Firewise process. So we've got 3 different entities. We've got the Firewise Committee. They're the ones that develop the action plan. They are the feet on the ground doing the planning and the work. Then there's the Board of Directors. They are the ones to approve the programs and the funding. And then there's us as management. We help bring it all together. We advertise to the community, and we arrange any vendors as necessary. I do want to clarify here that the Firewise Committee isn't necessarily making decisions, but they're making recommendations to the Board of Directors. The Board of Directors is the only entity that is able to approve spending money, unless the board provides a stipend to the Firewise Committee. But usually the board wants to be the last to kind of approve anything that's happening within the community. But all 3 of them together, they work really well, and they help make the magic happen. So now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of budgeting. The first question that you want to ask is there room in your annual budget? If not, then you may be in luck, because they do have some outside assistance or grants through the county. You're always able to request those. You do not have to be a Firewise committee a Firewise community in order to obtain these grants. Oftentimes, communities that are working on their Firewise designation will be granted the grants in order to kind of help them out with it. Otherwise, if you do have the money, go ahead and gather the estimated costs or formal quotes for the events. For your educational events, you're going to want to get quotes on the venue, any catering or supplies. Again, this is, I mentioned that a lot of times we do the educational event at the annual meeting. So if you're going to have a lot of people, you're going to want to rent out a big hall. Catering, some associations like to have food and drink available for their owners. It's kind of a big party, and any supplies necessary. For your action-based events, you're going to want to get estimates for either the disposal, would be like the bin rentals, the hauling, and the dump costs. Again, you wouldn't really be able to get a formal quote for that type of service, because it's really based on time. as well as the amount of green waste that is being disposed of. Landscaper services, if you want to do like a chipping program, then you would get an estimate from them. They would just need to know how many people are in the community, how many people you believe will be participating. And then there's also the option of getting assistance from volunteers or charitable organizations. Last year, one of my communities did a program, their fire-free program, right in the middle of COVID. So it threw a wrench in the middle of a project that was already planned. The Firewise committee and the board obviously had legitimate concerns about how are we going to do this when we need to keep everyone safe. Should we keep sanitation bins out there? Well, no, we probably can't do that because they're going to be stolen. For those that are immunocompromised and they can't participate, how do we encourage them, or how do we make it available to them? So we started a list of volunteers. We reached out to the entire community and asked them if they would be willing to help individual homeowners or neighbors, how they would be able to help, and what their load was. For this event specifically, it was to gather the green waste from their homes and then dump it into the HOA rented bins. So we needed to know what kind of vehicles they had, etc. It went very well, except for the fact that no one reached out for help. So we had a ton of volunteers, which was really nice to have, but no one needed any help. So again, this is one of those things that once the word got out more, I'm sure we would have a better participation with the volunteers and people needing to have some assistance during that time. Another option is charitable organizations. We have been talking about the possibility of having kind of joining hands with the Boy Scouts of America. Some of you may be aware that oftentimes after Christmas, they do a tree recycling program. This would be kind of a similar type of deal where owners who wish to utilize the service of the Boy Scouts of America would simply leave a donation with them. They would gather up their green waste, leave it curbside, and then the Boy Scouts of America would pick it up and put it in the HOA provided bins. Again, if there are no takers, then it doesn't really help, but it's always an option. Okay, the bottom line, be smart with your association's money and ensure that you aren't spending more than your association can comfortably afford. All right, when and where? This is going over timelines and permissions. So for the action event, it's best to correlate with the Firewise or county events. Every year, twice a year, the county does a fire-free event in which they offer free green waste disposal at several landfills within the county. They usually do it in the spring and the fall. The program that we do at one of my associations, we correlate with the county's fire-free program as well. So the first 2 weeks, we will be able to take advantage of that free disposal. And then the second 2 weeks, the HOA just pays for it out of pocket because it's worth it for the association. Locations and permissions. If you have a community with a lot of common area, you're not really going to have to worry about this. Obviously, you would get permission from the board of directors to place any sort of bins or other type of things within the common area. However, if you don't have a ton of common area or your streets belong to the city, then you would have to reach out to whoever maintains the parks, be it bin parks and recs or otherwise, and also the city to make sure that you can store any sort of bins or other types of materials in those areas. You definitely don't want to do anything under anyone's nose because you want to make sure that the program can continue if it is a success, which I'm sure it will be year after year. The educational event, again, as I was saying, the presentations are usually done by the fire department, Project Wildfire, or a Firewise committee representative. This is done at annual meetings and community events. And finally, why? This picture speaks volumes. As you can see, this house was smack dab in the middle of a wildfire, and because it had very clear defensible space, it survived. Fuel can only burn fuel. Creating a fuel break is the best way to protect your home. Typically, what is discussed during the inspections and sometimes the annual meetings is the ordinances per the county, such as the 20 feet setbacks as far as clearing brush from the streets and also the property lines. You can kind of see here all this gray. It looks like it's probably rock of some sort surrounding the lot. That's part of their 20-foot break. It's especially important in the front of the house or along the streets because the fire trucks need to be able to park their trucks in order to get their hoses out and protect your home. If you have a ton of brush right in front of your driveway or the sidewalk, then they can't park their trucks. Unfortunately, their hoses are only so long. And so if they can't reach your home, then you are unfortunately out of luck. Another item that's important to remember is clearing out areas around your utility boxes, electrical lines, trimming those trees around the electrical lines, and clearing the areas around the fire hydrants so that the fire department knows exactly where they are. Make sure that they are very brightly painted so that they stand out. And also make sure that your address numbers are clear and they have high contrast as well so that they will be easily noticed. One thing that they mentioned at my inspection yesterday that kind of stood out to me is when there's a wildfire, if they're going house to house and they see a house with a roof on fire, the fire department will usually just move to the next home to save. And it's scary, but I mention this because there are ways to protect your roof from fire. Cleaning out your gutters, that's the most easy thing that you can do. Changing your roof material. We don't want shake roofs, obviously. To a more fire resistant roofing material. I know that metal roofs are really hot right now. So those are very, very good. But there's definitely things that you can do in order to make sure that your home is safe and that the fire department is going to take the time to try to put out the fire on the roof. What I have heard before is that if it looks like a home has gone through enough action by the owners, efforts from the owners in order to make it fire wise or fire safe, then the fire department is more likely to try to save that home. If not, if there's a ton of brush around, if it looks like it's kind of been abandoned or that there's not a lot of effort going around, then they will move to the next house. Again, this is during a wildfire when there's an emergency situation and they don't have a ton of room. I am certainly not saying that the fire department is going to pick and choose who they are going to save. But unfortunately, when you get down to it, they don't have a lot of options at times. All right, and next we've got some resources. The national resource is the National Fire Protection Association. This is actually the parent company for the Firewise community. I use their website a ton for information. I think we will be able to send this share this PowerPoint via email so that you'll actually have all the email, I'm sorry, the website addresses too. The next one is actually a local agency specifically for Deschutes County. This is Project Wildfire. This program was launched by the fire marshal in response to the Aubrey Hall and Skeleton Fire in the 1990s. They are absolutely fabulous as far as response times and assistance. Again, they too are very, very passionate about this, and they are willing to help in any way necessary. As far as the inspections, I would definitely, if you're looking to get Firewise, I would definitely go to Project Wildfire and get more information on how to set up that inspection. Okay, and finally, this is just a little cartoon. He's saying, it seemed a little early to me too, but the manager said, let's hire some tree trimmers, and these guys are good. And it's people that are putting holiday decorations on trees instead of actually trimming them. This slide reminds us that the county does have a list of resources who specialize in fuel reduction. This is landscapers and contractors. Going with someone that knows what they're doing will save everyone time and energy and even your home. So I can share that with you all as well. This time, do we have any questions? If you have any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself. That is an investment. So in order to get the Firewise designation, we need either 1 hour per dwelling or $25 of an investment. You're not actually paying $25 to Project Wildfire or the Firewise agency. You are using that money to either hire a landscaper to do the cleanup, or you're using that money to pay for the disposal for the bins. It's the money that you're using in order to better your landscape. There's no cost to become Firewise, that's for sure. I'm not sure how to see the chat. Can I see the chat? There it is.
Marlena, this is Les.
Where do we find the application? That would be on the, let me go back. That would be on this slide right here, the nfpa.org. This will talk about how to become Firewise. So the application will be on there. And I'm sorry, Les, did you have a question?
Yeah, not really a question, just a comment that we learned back at the Two Bulls fire. As I mentioned earlier, we were on level 2 alert, which is, I think, 30 minutes and you've got to be gone, something to be out of effect. I think this is pretty well known that most everybody in communities like ours, at least, has outdoor barbecues with propane tanks. And clearly that is first thing you want to do is get that tank away from your house. Your house may survive and yet the tank explodes and basically almost takes the house with it. So that's kind of a real simple thing you can do while you're waiting around, wringing your hands and feeling like you can't do much. Another tip that I got from actually a gentleman who has been a firefighter said that, and this depends, of course, on the type of construction of your home and the siding, but he said there's nothing wrong about trying to basically spraying your house, keeping your house wet as much as possible with your garden hose. Again, a lot of these things get passed with just embers, and embers, if it hits a dry surface, of course, could ignite, and if it's wet, then it probably would extinguish. That's just 2 things that I heard and I remembered.
Definitely, those are great tips. Yes. I think we have another question in the chat. Can we have someone just come to give an assessment of each home's landscaping as well as the common areas? Yes and no. It really depends on the size of your community. Anyone can contact the fire department and request an inspection.
Hey, Marlena, we lost you again. Just
Oh.
forward. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone can call the fire department and request an inspection. However, if the board were to contact the fire department and request an inspection of the entire community, every single individual home, they're probably going to have to decline because they don't have the bandwidth or the manpower to do so. So as far as the inspection at the beginning of the Firewise process, that would be your best bet. What they would do is they would go through the community. Sometimes they walk, sometimes depending on the size of your community. Sometimes they walk, sometimes you all get into a car and kind of drive around quickly. They will talk about the most common issues or any issues that they may see right off the bat. But if you want to have that individual assessment and report performed, then you would have to contact them and order an individual one. I understand that they're extremely busy at this time. I know the community that I have with the 800 units, the Firewise committee was requesting that they do that for all 800 units and lots. And that was a hard no, unfortunately, from the agencies. It's just too tough. The assessments themselves, they can last 20-30 minutes because they really go over every little item. But all the information is extremely helpful. But at the same time, all of it is typically pretty common. So if you had a group of individuals or a group of neighbors and you gathered them all up and you went to just one house and listened in on the inspection, I bet that those neighbors can go home, take a look at their surrounding house and really know what they have to do. So that might be an option for you. You could even go maybe, depending on how big your blocks are, block by block, or just, 5 or 6 homes at a time. Any other questions? It doesn't sound like it. Jessica, are we going to have this PowerPoint available for our attendees?
Yep, it'll go to everybody when we're done.
Perfect. Would you be able to also send them my contact information in case they have any other questions to follow up?
Yeah, I'll do that for sure.
Awesome. All right. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate you attending.
Great job, Marlena.
Thank you.